Tennessee football has the same problems and the same questions that so many teams across the country do, yet it consistently plays to a greater disadvantage for Josh Heupel's teams than it does for other teams across the country. They have the same questions in what their quarterback room will really look like. Will the returning talent continue to grow and rise to the occasion? What does their unproven talent look like? Yet for some reason, that continues to be a massive negative for Tennessee, where it relies just a question for maybe other programs. I think that's where you get to an 8-4 finish, middle of the pack at best in conference standings. But that's such a safe take that I almost think it's disrespectful to believe that Tennessee at best is going to be an 8-4 season. Should they just like wrap it up and just call it a season? Like, is that the best that they're going to do? Oftentimes, I believe people set a bar at 8-4 with a chance and a greater upside of being happier at the end of the season because, oh, what a relief they ended up getting to 9 wins. What a season that was, versus saying, oh, I really believe they could get to 9-10 wins, and then they do end up finishing 8-4. And now you're saying, oh, this was such an awful season. They so underachieved. I can't believe I thought they were going to get to 9 or 10 wins. But hey, we're in July. It's the last month without Tennessee football. Bold claims are still in, and I think Tennessee could get to 10 wins this season. But if they do that, they're going to have to do, for the first time in Josh Heupel's tenure, something they've never done. They can't lose the game they're not supposed to. And I think this is the year they avoid doing that. I'm Paige Dauer. This is a sports page on Full Disclosure. So what's the cleanest way Tennessee can get to 10 wins? Because I believe that is very much within grasp for Josh Heupel's team. Each year he continues to exceed expectations within the program. Each year they continue to get the most out of their players. I don't know why this year, for many people, they believe that's going to be different. I think 8-4 is a record that they should be able to sleepwalk through, right? They should be able to win all of their non-conference games. And then 4 of their conference games, they too are at the bottom of conference standings. Now, while it might be up years for those teams like Kentucky, Missouri, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, they still aren't on Tennessee's level. Maybe the separation between each of these teams, with the way that the college landscape is today, gets a little thinner. But Tennessee is still better than those teams. Tennessee should be able to sleepwalk to an 8-4 record. I mean, that's 8 wins right there. 4 conference, 4 non-con. You mean to tell me they're not going to be competitive and maybe win 1 or 2 games that they have to be like competitive in? Those 50-50 games, Tennessee is not going to win those games. And I get it. Like, you have a lot of questions in the quarterback room. What about all of the unproven talent in the wide receiver room? What will that defensive front look like? To get to 9 or 10 wins, you have to have confidence in all of the areas that a lot of people have concerns about. And I think you have to avoid teams, especially if you want to get to 9 wins, that want to play spoiler. And the one team that I look out for that probably could play spoiler to Tennessee's 9 or 10 win season, it's Arkansas. For Tennessee to avoid another 19-14 upset where their quarterback in Taylor Green goes for nearly 270 yards and they have a really balanced run game, you have to have confidence in the defensive front. You have to have confidence in Tennessee's offense that they're going to be able to avoid that, right? Because if we look to last season, maybe that top wide receiver talent for Arkansas isn't coming back, but their run game is coming back. Their true freshman in Braylon Russell a season ago, he was 3rd on the chart in rushing yards by the end of the season. He was a huge factor in that game. He too went for nearly, I think, like 160 yards on the ground. He averaged like 5.3 yards per carry. He was just behind Taylor Green in total yards when the season finished. They're getting both of them back this season. And where you look to that game and where a lot of their success happened, it happened in the middle of the field, whether it's, running it up the gut with the run game or short to intermediate passes down the middle of the field. Arkansas exploited the middle of Tennessee a season ago. So for Tennessee to avoid a loss against Arkansas, to avoid falling to the spoiler, you have to have confidence in the defensive front. You have to have confidence in their edge rusher, which is likely going to be Joshua Josephs. You have to have confidence that he's taking the next step forward. You hope by the midpoint of the season, Jermod McCoy, and I know he's out on the perimeter, that he's coming back, that he's your best talent on the team this season when you look at like all SEC caliber players. Like, you hope he at least can be out there for limited reps, can be out there for a good portion of the game. Then when you maybe look to Tennessee's strengths, like Tennessee should be able to win games where they hold teams to less than 3 touchdowns. If Tennessee's offense wasn't so limp a season ago, where it's false starts, short runs that don't really lead to anything, or passes that fall short, if they could have strung together really anything, and helped balance out the time of possession for one, that game could have gone a lot different, especially, and I don't even care the way that the game ended running out of bounds. There was so much more that they could have done to avoid a scenario such as that. And I think having a veteran player like Joey Aguilar actually could play to a huge advantage for Tennessee to avoid falling to the spoiler. And I think a win against Arkansas all but secures a 9-win season for Tennessee. But how they get to 10 wins? Okay, they have to defeat Georgia. They have to. And I think the fact that they're playing in September and it's the third game of the season, you want to look to the schedule gods. Okay, the schedule computer has played in such a favor for Tennessee this season. Right now, like, I'm not going to touch Alabama. I'm not going to touch Florida. I don't really know if Tennessee can go to Tuscaloosa and win. Florida is always such a strange toss-up kind of a game. Not to say that they can't do it, because they have done it, right? They have beat Alabama, just not really at their place. And on the road against Florida is kind of always like a weird game. So right now I'm not touching those games, but I'll entertain Georgia. And I think, right now, the fact that they're playing as the first conference game of the season, it's game 3 on the season, it's a 3:30 kick. Like, I can already see the fireworks shooting at the top of Neyland Stadium after the game. And I guess if they don't lose, we could just say, like, oh, Paige was hallucinating in July. That's fine. But I think the greatest asset for Tennessee is the fact that they play so early, because the time that they met last year, Georgia had already played like 7 SEC games. And you want to know the schedule that they had? I mean, they were absolute road warriors by the time they met the Volunteers. They had that second half surge against Alabama, so like that loss was maybe more so like a mental win. And then a couple weeks later, they're going on the road to Texas, the top ranked team in the country, and they defeat them 30-15. So it felt by the time that the Vols and Dogs met, no one could touch Georgia. Like, they had so much momentum for them. Whereas Tennessee was coming off of this like really emotional high of defeating Oklahoma, but they didn't really even look their best. And then were they just hungover when they met Arkansas? Were they spending too much time dissecting film? Did Sam Pittman just really have like an excellent game plan and Tennessee didn't know what to do? At least this time you can avoid any type of those scenarios when you go up against the Georgia Bulldogs. You can catch Georgia before they get hot. And I think that is, for right now, while Tennessee is trying to get its way to the top tier in conference standings as far as being like this elite program, catching Georgia early is the best thing for Tennessee. And this is where it kind of gets maybe a little confusing when the same questions play to a greater disadvantage for Tennessee. And I think maybe part of it, if we fight through some of that confusion, is because Georgia is a more recently proven program, right? They have a structure and a system and depth in place that they really can just reload every year. Right now, Tennessee still kind of feels like they're trying to build up so that they can reload. So it's not like a negative rebuild, but they did lose a lot of their starting talent, lost some guys to the portal, and who did they get in to replace them? You look to Georgia. They have a question with their quarterback room, Gunnar Stockton. I mean, this will be his first year as a starter. Joey Aguilar, first year starter, but in this system. At least for Stockton, he was in this system. He understands what's expected. He understands what things look like. He got reps with the second, third teams. Joey Aguilar has like part of the summer and then fall camp, right? Like, he does not have as much time. But for the both of them, what both teams are looking for is decision making, understanding of the game, being able to connect with the running backs and wide receivers. And it's those accessories, right? Those skill positions that I think could separate this game even more so if they met maybe later in the season. But because they're meeting so early, maybe when you look to the running back room for the Georgia Bulldogs, and I believe that the guy they're getting back is, Nate Frazier. He was huge in place of an injured Trevor Etienne a year ago, and he should be an even greater asset for the Georgia Bulldogs this season. And when we look to what cost Tennessee, the game against Arkansas a year ago, was their inability to really stop the run. But when you're going up against a guy like Nate Frazier, who really led the team in rushing yards, a couple of his stats, he took 133 carries for nearly 680 yards. He had 8 touchdowns a season ago. So he's going to be someone that's going to be really hard to stop, but I have confidence in Tennessee's defensive front that they'll be able to at least limit him. And then you look to the skill positions, and they're getting back, who is it? Dylan Bell. He was a huge wide receiver, especially out on the perimeter, right? Like we talked about Jermon McCoy against Arkansas. Maybe because Arkansas attacked the middle so much, what will his role be? I think Georgia's going to put him on the outside, and it's going to be all about that perimeter play. And for Jermon McCoy, like that's a great matchup for him. And you hope maybe, what is that, like 9-ish months post the ACL injury, like you'd hope he'd be back in at least some type of limited capacity to make that game a little interesting on the outside. But for Dylan Bell, he too had a really great season for Tennessee a season ago. He had 13 games where he accounted for 43 receptions for more than 466 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. Also, Georgia really loves their tight end play too. You could look to a guy coming back in Lawson Lucky. He had a trio or so of touchdowns as well. I think he went in for 7 touchdowns. So I think if you caught that team later in the season, maybe the discrepancy and margin gets a little wider, but because you catch it so early and teams are still trying to figure themselves out, like that's Tennessee's greatest advantage. But Tennessee could win in more ways than just collecting the W at the end of the game. If Tennessee plays a close competitive game, that is a win in the eyes of Tennessee fans. They could also use it as bulletin material to really prove that, hey, we really are this good team. We don't have this false sense of identity, this false sense of hope of who we are because we just played a bunch of nobodies, a bunch of small non-conference teams to start the season. We played Georgia game 3. We really kind of got that reality check early on. Say Tennessee avoids Arkansas playing spoiler. There it is. Who do they play next? Alabama. I might then entertain Tennessee going to Tuscaloosa, winning that game if they look good against Georgia, avoid being upset by Arkansas. Well, then the next game against Alabama, that could be a really interesting game. But I think like Tennessee can get to 9 wins if Tennessee avoids losing the game they're not supposed to. They could get to 10 wins. Like this could be a really up year for Tennessee. I guess in the comments, let me know what you guys think. I don't think I'm crazy and asserting that Tennessee could be 9-3 on the Sports Source a couple of months ago. I mean, I said at worst, I think they're going to be in a major bowl game by the end of the season, and you have to at least have 9-10 wins to be able to do that. So I think this could be a good year for Tennessee. They obviously have to do well in these 2 matchups specifically, I think. But let me know what you guys think. Thursday, we'll hear from VFL Chris White on the Rewind Thursday at 1. I am out of town for the 4th of July to see my sisters on Friday, so we will not have an episode then. I hope you guys have a great holiday weekend. Happy Independence Day, and I will talk to you guys again Monday at 11 a.m.